that there are, I don't know if it's not clear area before that, there's so many elderly people that live there that are, one could get healthy that just taken care of. But sure, it's such a high risk of becoming ill from this. Nobody ever informed me before. And they also told us when I called, the man that I spoke with was not very helpful, and he said that anyone would know that only bleach water would disinfect things. And I would not have known that. I would have thought that Lysol and Pine would have done it, but it doesn't. It's just bleach water.
Okay, this gentleman here has had a chance to speak.
I have one question just on this backflow valve. I've seen one before. I know what they're talking about. Now, if you've got storm drains coming off your house, your downspouts, that all go into the sewer, especially if you've got a newer house, and they recommend that all your downspouts go into the sewer, right?
If you're on a combined sewer system, it's illegal to connect them.
46 years ago, I had a hook into the sewer for my downspout coming off the gutters of the house. Okay, you got all this water coming down, and your backflow valve, the little flipper job on it, water's going out, and the other water's coming in. Now, who's going to give way to what? Where's it going to go? It's going to come back up.
I think you might want to talk to the plumber, but the advice I give you is put the backflow valve close enough to your house so it is there before your rain drains get into the line.
Okay, so you got a basement floor, and say generally it's located, centrally located to wherever your hot water heater is or whatever. And you've got your downspouts coming into the sewer drain. I don't know.
Now, I think
Where does the water go? Who's going to give away to it?
This sound here from Crossley Pruning is going to, the question of how these valves work and how well they work this is a new one to me. The availability of the valves, I think, probably came as a surprise to most people here. In point of fact, the city passed this ordinance back in 1984, May 31st, 1984, that this subsidy for backflow valves has been in existence. Sam, why don't you introduce yourself and hold one up so people can see it and explain how it works.
I'm Sam from Property Plumbing, and I've been in several houses. Mr. Conley, I just put one in his house, and I just brought two, just different brands. Basically, it's just the sewage comes in, actually water, sewage, whatever comes in and opens this gate as the water goes through. There's the gate there. And it just comes out the other side. If you get a back pressure, it comes in and closes the gate. And that's all it is. It's just that the water coming through this way will push and go on through. And any back pressure will just close it.
What I'm getting at is, okay, you've got water coming up your downspout.
Right.
Here you got this downpour, and your gutters are plumbed full and coming down the pipe. That's got to stay open to let that water go through.
Okay, that's the important thing. That's why you can't just put these anywhere. That's why it's, if you have a basement bathroom or something like that, you have to isolate this valve from your upstairs plumbing to your downstairs plumbing. So if you've got outside rainwater, rain gutter coming in, it's got to go around this valve. Here's the city sewer right here. It's got to go around the valve. It don't go through the valve. Because what happens also, if you have upstairs bathroom, it's the same thing. It's got to go around the valve. Now, the reasoning for that, say for instance, there's a buildup out in the sewer, and it's stopped the gate. No water can come in, no water can come out. You continue.
You can't flush the toilet.
Right. If you start flushing your toilet or it keeps raining, then you're flooding yourself. The city's not flooding you, you're flooding yourself. So it's really important that you isolate. That's why each house, each job we go look at, one of them could be very complicated. Now their house, go ahead.
Now, I was just going to mention that I was puzzled when they told me that that I had to separate my upstairs plumbing from my downstairs plumbing when I put this valve in. And then I got thinking, well, if they put this valve in line and then all this water is coming in and the valve stops it from coming into my house, there's going to be a lot of pressure there. What's to say that line won't break out in my yard somewhere, and then I'm going to have to replace that pipe too. So they finally cleared me up. They put the valve only on the downstairs toilet, shower, and floor drain. And then, if the water coming in from the sewer is backing up, it bypasses that valve and has to go to the upstairs bathroom before it can do any damage. Hopefully, there won't be that much water before it gets that high. However, there's no guarantee. The town won't guarantee it. The city won't guarantee it 100%.
What did you say? Pardon? How much was your solution?
Mine was $730.
But mine's 848.
You have a
So it all depends.
Yes, please.
Go ahead. Questions about the valve? Go ahead. Retail cost on the valve.
I don't know. I was buying by the case. I don't pay attention. They're about $65 for 4-inch valve. 65, 67.50, something like that.
How about the two one?
I just been charged the same price. They just come from different wholesale houses here. Now this one here, you have to unbolt it to do the repair. Now I'm telling people that they should check these a couple times a year, because no. This is, like I say, it's got to isolate, which becomes a very problem. We just about on his house, I finally figured out a way not to do it. I thought I was going to have to tear up his bathroom floor, and linoleum, the whole works. But I was able to figure out how to do it on the outside, and I took out his laundry tray and moved the floor drain and just all kinds of stuff.
Did you have to break the floor?
You got to break the floor. And then you put this in, and you have to have an access box around it, so that you can take that access box, and you just unscrew this, check it out, pull this out, make sure it's working right. What happens, like Kotex, paper towels, stuff that's not supposed to be in there, can hang this thing up. And I'm just trying to think of some that had backwater valves that flooded. Bethel Baptist Church flooded. They have a backwater valve. There's a 5-unit apartment on the corner, right, Leonard and, what is this street right here?
Central.
Yeah, okay.
Why did it back up?
Because they had not checked their backwater valve. This gentleman in the 5-unit apartment, he asked me to go over and put one in. So I started digging around and I found one. But he didn't even know he had it. But usually commercial places are the worst because they have to be cast iron and they hang up easy. People, paper towels and stuff, they're not supposed to be in there.
Okay, if there's no more questions about this, I'm going to ask Sam to stick around for a little while longer here after the meeting, and you can take have a little hands-on play with his toys here.
I did want to comment on the price. I think I kind of touched on it. His was $730, yours was $8-something. I looked at another one at $3,500. It all depends on where I have to put the valve in order to isolate the upstairs and the downstairs. If you've got, say, the $3,500 was a apartment complex. They had 3 bathrooms in the basement. It's just almost impossible to get at. So you have to look at each job and determine where this thing goes. Now, her neighbor, I think $235 or something like that, I could do hers for it, but it's just, really quite nothing. But you got to look at each job to find out how it's going to go in. And make sure the rain drains are on the other side.
Okay, your turn. Okay, there's a question some people have asked as to whether they want to get together to work as a committee to deal with the city on the question of compensation, to work with the risk management either on your own or as a group or to hire an attorney or whatever you want to do. And before I push that one any farther, I'd like to see how many people there are here tonight who had some loss, some sort of financial loss as a result of the two cloudbursts. Count hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay. If any of you people would like to get together to work on the question of getting something, working with risk management, trying to find compensation, I would like you to make sure you let Debbie know about that, or else if anybody here wants to form a committee tonight, you can do that.
I'd like to say, if you are interested, on that little white slip of paper, put a Y in a circle for yes and for no. And that'll just let me know. I'll contact you.
Okay. Debbie, you want to go ahead and...
I have a couple more questions that I'd personally like to ask. How many maintenance trucks do they provide per area of the city per day?
Summer weekend morning, several hundred men, women, and children got first-hand exposure to a special part of Portland, the place where the Willamette and the Columbia Rivers and the Columbia Slough come together at Kelly Point in North Portland. They were members and friends of American Volksports Association, a new outdoors experience increasing in popularity all over the country. Today's 11-kilometer walk covered Kelly Point Park, with access to long stretches of the Columbia Slough and both of Portland's rivers. Marv Walker of American Volksports Association talks with Rush Colemain of the North Portland Access Project, explaining the lure and popularity of Volksporting.
Marv, how did all this get started?
Well, actually, a lot of people wonder how Volksporting got started, and there's a legend that it started with old, unreliable Volkswagens on the Autobahn that kept breaking down 10 kilometers from home. But actually, it started at a failed Volkslauf, or Run of the People, out back in 1963. And Babingen, Germany, they had this big run, and they got about 2,000 people out there, but the medals didn't show up. So when the medals didn't show up, they said, well, now what do we do? We only had 3 medals anyway, so, well, why don't we try walking up and down the mountain here? So they tried that, and the people really enjoyed it. They said, hey, we got a lot more than just a lot of sore feet. Nobody had to run a lot. They said, why don't we try this again sometime? And so they did it 12 more times that year and said, you know, this is even more fun than the running. We're getting more people turning out. They get, 2,000 to 3,000 people out here just to walk, because the urban-dwelling German doesn't like to sit around in the city during the weekend. He wants to get out there and get some fresh air and sunshine. And they started having more and more of these every year. And eventually, in 1969, they finally incorporated the thing into an organization we now know as the IVV, is the International Volksport Verband, which in English is the International Federation of Popular Sports. And they started off with 4 sports. They started off with walks, the 10-kilometer walks, which we're most familiar with. And of course over there, because they were in the Bavarian countries, they had 10-kilometer cross-country skiing. They started off with small swims, only a kilometer in length. They've shortened those now for, we Americans don't like to swim quite that far. And then they have the bike events, which are 25 kilometers. The original 4 countries now have grown into 22 countries clear around the world, and we had over 15 million people that got involved last year in this.
Tell me, how did it get started in America?
The servicemen stationed over in Germany had a lot of fun doing this on weekends, and so they said, let's bring this thing back to America. And that's how it all got started here. It was in 1976 for the bicentennial. Down in Fredericksburg, Texas, they had a 10-kilometer walk, and they had a very good turnout for it. So they decided, well, let's try it again. And it became so successful that in 1979 they finally incorporated the American Volkssport Association, or AVA. From there it's kind of spread all over the country. There are 550 clubs now throughout the country, even in District of Columbia and in Puerto Rico. Now here in Oregon, it took a little while for it to get out here, but Forest Grove is where they had the first event. That was a lot of fun. They had, again, a large turnout for it. And that attracted a lot of media attention, so the next thing that happened was another club sprung up over in Portland. Then from there, another club until they incorporated a group here in Oregon called the Oregon Trail State Volkssport Association. We call it the UTSFA. You got to have a lot of UTSFA in order to have Volksmarch. And we've got 30 clubs in there now.
How long ago did this first event occur?
Well, the first event in Oregon was in 1984, September 22nd and 23rd.
You were there?
No, unfortunately I wasn't, but I talked to somebody who was, and they really enjoyed it. That's one of the real prized possessions, is that medal from the very first walk in Oregon. I don't think any of the original 1979 ones are still in existence that they made down in Texas, but they this last weekend they flew in a few that were the 1980 ones from Dallas. And that was a very, very hot item for people to still be able to buy some of those original ones. I'd like to make one thing clear, though. When you buy a medal, that means you just paid for the right to get the medal. You've got to earn it. Nobody buys a medal. You've got to get out there and do the entire event. Now, the hat pins, those are something else. Those are strictly a souvenir type item, and anybody can buy those. And we sell an awful lot of those to people that work at the events or just come out to see the events. One of the big things that people like to do, of course, is to walk in different states. And so as you walk in different states, you